Two things I'll talk about. One is Linwood Ave School and our experiences around collaboration, and that obviously links into the cluster. So I'll speak about Linwood Learning Community Cluster. But I should also mention that we also have some pretty close links with Woolston Cluster. A couple of things about the establishment of the cluster. I think Ministry initiated, coming out of the things that are going on, how do we approach the next step in Christchurch. Changing school cluster with merger and closure proposals. The Ministry itself changing its approaches, quite a lot of staff turnover, quite a lot of left hand, right hand going off in different directions. So, and strong wellbeing and social needs focus, an awful lot of agency, new groups like the school-based mental health team and others coming in and working in our schools. All positive, beautiful things, but they require a set of skills, systems and so on to work with. Modern learning environment things, property development things, time to look at enrolment zones, blah, blah, blah. So layer upon layer of stuff that can get in the way. Strong liaison between principals. The cluster had a history prior to the earthquake time of being quite a cohesive, cooperative group of schools. The learning community cluster model included, under the Ministry's expectation, early childhood centres. I heard someone saying before, oh, isn't that good? Well, it is good, but it probably didn't come voluntarily. It came with a nudge and a nudge. So there's 16 ECCs in our cluster. We've had Ministry-funded coordinator roles, and there's also been an engagement facilitator, someone who works here at the Ministry who's helped to engage ECEs in particular and the project around transition between early childhood and primary. And we've had some close liaison with the Ministry in terms of collaboration around high needs kids, special need provisions, the high demands we experienced and post-earthquake in particular, and we came to the Ministry term 3 or 4 2013 saying this needs to be done better. So we've had probably twice a term meetings, some additional provisions, at least feeling we've been heard, and I think at times we have been heard, and there's been some good cooperation and some things you don't agree on and so on. The core projects for the cluster are around digital learning environments, ICT. So there's 2 projects there. One is a monster of a project, which you might have heard of. It involves 31 schools, 5 mini clusters based around the lower decile secondary schools in the city: Hornby, Mairaho, Aranui, Linwood, Hillmorton, and their contributing primary schools. And that also involved a group called GCSN, the Greater Christchurch Schools Network, who are sort of a private trust looking to do some work to foster ICT, digital learning in schools. They've been a key player in it. Another trust's been formed to oversee now the new 31 schools community cluster. And it's, I think we probably overreached at the start, and so we've probably come back this year to redrawing some of the expectations we were going to have of 24/7 access for kids, one device, it's all going to come through a leasing arrangement with families. And transitions, Jan, who is the ECE engagement person, has done a lot of work meeting with ECEs, bringing them together as I'll call a cohesive group, and also between ourselves, particularly the primary obviously, not so much the secondary. And we've begun to look at, and for a whole range of, I think, valid reasons, the links from end of year 6 into year 7-8 transition have still got quite a bit of work to do, and that's because the college have been just cooking with gas. There's a lot been going on there as they picked up year 7 and 8s last year and a whole lot of other contextual things. So that's got a way to go. There's been a bit of work in there around what we've called a vulnerable children's project. I mean, there's an awful lot of support and help in the Linwood area for kids, families and schools, but it's beyond me to manage it well, to do all I should do around referrals and so on. As more people come in, the more chance it is I'm going to forget something. Or Gordon might know about a few agencies, I know about a couple, but I don't know about the one he knows, and he doesn't know the ones I know. So how do we stop that being silly? So we've done a lot of talking around that, and that's created, I think, that realisation that you'll know that health and education don't always see things the same way, don't always come together. There's a health and education working party steering group that's in place at the moment across the city, and we've got on their agenda, on their table, and I think they are probably the people with some grunt to help make that happen or help to hear what we're saying. And it's just managing the multiple level of agencies and relationships and the referral processes, and knowing that Fred's got 3 big grunty agencies working with him, Tom over here's got no one. Or that we've got 2 working with Fred and they're not the right 2, he should really be with the ABC agency. And sometimes we're just glad in the school to grab an agency and say, for goodness sakes, look after Tom, please. In terms of the school-based things, you can see some of the things that link in there that are collaborative type projects that we've been involved in, and some of them are obvious ones like PB4L, the Mutakoroa project, Accelerating Literacy Learning. They're common across schools, and particularly the digital IT ones. So there's a lot on this. There's a lot of layers of stuff. Some of that's business as usual for schools in New Zealand. Some of it's contextual to the earthquake and contextual to the east at Christchurch, I think, in our little corner of the world. I think for me, the things that I'd want to say is, in terms of joint initiatives, collaborative projects, stuff that involves people from different backgrounds, and that can be PD providers, early childhood and primary getting together, health and education, ministry and schools. You need to have those clear, agreed, shared purpose project goals. It's bread and butter stuff, but you've got to have it. We need a clear idea of what collaboration is. There's an expectation that we'll all know what it is. Well, I don't think we all do. And particularly collaboration in this project and this street, what are we doing here? Don't care what you did in New York or Auckland, what are we doing here? Really nail it down. I think for teachers to get it, they've really got to see clear links to classroom practice, curriculum design, and children's learning, if they're going to buy into it and want to have that. I think that if you can get an alignment, obviously, to the school's direction and strategic plan and so on, then that's vital to do. Sometimes, in my experience of clusters, not all clusters work. That relationships between schools, relationship between leaders, who brokers that, who looks to see whether a cluster is going to be successful or not. I spent some time on the IT advisory panel for the PD clusters in 2006-07 or so, and there was a number of clusters that just didn't make it, didn't work well. And there's stuff to be learned out of that in terms of what enables a cluster to work well, I think. And some of that's about, I think, quality providers and facilitators. Before you know it, an organisation's dominating the scene as a provider. Is that a good thing? And sometimes they dominate because they had Bill and Fred and Sue and Sarah, who are stunning as facilitators. They hired Gerard. He ain't so good. They hire, no offence, Gordon, and he's hopeless. But they need him to run the contract. So I think we've got to watch that stuff. And they come, and we've seen this in the projects you run. There's government policy direction. There's providers, multiple, their interests around, got to have a contract, got to meet the ministry's needs, got to pay the people. Schools have got their own little goals and so on. You've got to recognise those multiple different interests, competing interests at times, to know, are we really going to achieve that big glossy thing in 12 months or whatever the time is, and be as open as you can be. And that's, maybe a wee bit pie in the sky, but I think we've got to know there's some multiple interests in there. And really clear evaluation of projects. What are we aiming to do? What will make us smile in a year's time or 2 years' time or whatever it is? What will make us think, hey, maybe we need to rethink this? So really nailing what it is we're aiming for. Watch we don't have too many big goals around a project. Be as discreet and as focused as we can be. Watch out for bringing in, they talk about the universal learning design. There's a few theories and concepts around now, spirals of inquiry, all this stuff. We've got enough theory in vaults around New Zealand and the world on how you can approach learning and development. Watch we're not just bringing in the latest things, I think, and be really clear on what it is we're trying to achieve. I think the number and diversity of participants, I think in our 31 schools cluster for the IT digital, we break into 5 mini clusters, and that's probably where the rubber will hit the road and success and failure will occur in our 5 mini clusters. The 31's too big and too spread. We can share some ideas, we'll come together occasionally as principals, but you've got to watch that. That concept of sustainability, it's been talked about for ages. How do you achieve sustainability? I think, you don't achieve sustainability by layering more on top of schools. If you're expecting mainstream schools to do more and more with the same resources they've got, even if you come in for a year and say, here I am, I'm a guru and an expert, here's my book, follow my program, and then you go off into the sunset, they haven't got more legs or arms or something suddenly. So yes, they might have learnt a bit more, but boy, to apply that learning and fit it in with their current knowledge and their current systems as a school, it's going to take us probably 3 years plus. So leave us on our own and we'll probably drop it. Unless we're really motivated. So you'll know from that. There's a lot of projects and things that have come through New Zealand schools that are, packed away somewhere. Or they've made a little bit of a difference, but as someone said, I think you asked that question, or someone did, we've tweaked around how we do restorative. We do restorative the Linwood way, we do restorative the Northern way, we do, okay. Because we're comfortable with it or because it's effective. So I'm just watching that, multiple layers of stuff on top, and certainly for us, we feel overlayered at the moment, so that's why it's on my mind. We could pack up and go home, to be fair, at times. So that's enough from me.